Yes, Sister Khadija, we have on the line the hard to get, the once host of the first talk show that inspired me back in the day when we were rolling down the highway, Sen.Cleo Fields, the Louisiana State Legislature. Welcome to the open line, Senator Fields.
Man, it's good to be with you, and
Go ahead, brother.
it's good to be with you. And listen, I remember way back in the day when I had Cleo Live. We used to broadcast Lafayette, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, all over the state, and it brings back old memories. And it's good to be with you.
Yeah, and you know the callers how we felt. Sometimes we used to shake our fists at the phone and say we got to get into Cleo Live, and welcome, and I really appreciate you enduring this long to come back and throw your hat into the ring in the fire, the political fire, which we call the state of Louisiana. And I know you're running for that new congressional, newly created seat, but you're not a stranger to Congress. Tell us a little bit more about whatever you want to let the Lafayette and Appaloosa's listening audience. What is your platform in this race?
Yeah, first let's talk about the areas of the district, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Jay.
Yes, sir.
The district was created during an extraordinary session of the Louisiana legislature, something we've been fighting for actually for now, 27 years to bring back a second majority black district, only to give blacks an opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. The district starts in Baton Rouge, picks up, more of the west part of East Baton Rouge, then it picks up all of West Baton Rouge. It goes into Point-Capee, it picks up St. Landry, then it goes into Lafayette and picks up kind of North Lafayette.
Right.
And then it goes down 49, picks up Avoyelles, Rapides, Natchitoches, DeSoto, and then on into Caddo. But that's the district, and that's the district that we're running under for this congressional race. As you know, the district has been challenged. And, I'm kind of used to that because, when I served, 27 years ago, the district was challenged, and it was challenged throughout my 4 years of service in Congress. But, I want to encourage people to really take this race serious, to get out and vote. I want you to vote early. And if you're not registered to vote, or if you know someone who is not registered to vote, please, take the time and get them registered to vote. Now, why am I running? I'm running because I want to finish where I started. I have 4 years of seniority, so I walk into the door immediately with more seniority than many members of the U.S. Congress. So I'm looking forward to going back to Congress and finish what I started. It's time for us to raise the minimum wage. We got people who work hard every day, and at the end of the day, they're still poor. And it's not because they're lazy, it's because we need to pay them a livable wage. And that's something that we need to get through Congress. We've tried hard in the legislature to do to raise the minimum wage, but we're not even able to get the bill out of committee. But I always felt that Congress' role to raise the minimum wage. So I hope to get back there and help that happen. Education, I worked hard to improve education. Actually, I was chairman of the Education Committee, Senate Education Committee, the last legislative term, and we tried to do some things to improve education. First, we got to pay our teachers for the work they do. Teachers can't buy bread or milk cheaper, and we were able to give the teachers, a pay raise during the last session of the legislature, and we wanted to make it permanent. I don't know why the last time we gave them a raise, it was a stipend, and we have to keep doing that every year. We need to make it permanent. Because if you look at the field of education on college campuses across the state and across the country, it's the smallest department now. People are not going into education because they realize that, we don't respect our educators. We got to respect our educators And the best way to show respect is by giving them the tools they need to teach and paying them for their profession and treat it as such. So we have worked
Hmm.
on raising teacher pay. I also introduced the bill. I don't know if you're familiar, but you know, up until 3 years ago, kindergarten wasn't even mandatory.
Hmm.
Early childhood education is so important. So we made kindergarten mandatory in Louisiana and was one of the first states to do it, which is a very good thing. Why is that important? Because, we always want to give, little Johnny a test in a third grade and say, oh, he's not performing. He's not performing up, on grade level. We need to hold him back or we need to give him some remedial courses. It'll be real nice if we can take little Johnny from the time he's born and put him in some early childhood education centers.
Right.
And then, I mean, that's where the future is. I mean, if the kids don't catch it early, we lose so many of them. So we're going to continue to work on improving education in our state.
Senator Fields,
We got to make,
yes,
yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. And I'm you on a roll. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the metrics for Louisiana, and I know you touched on some of the issues, has been dismal. And I'm just being honest, like we try to be on this show and deal with facts. The metrics about Louisiana being how they're being measured, was education, economics, uh, just everyday plain living issues that people in our community, the black community, whether it's from North Lafayette to Opelousas and points beyond,
Hmm.
has been dismal. What will you do to help improve the metrics? Meaning the measurement of the quality of life, the standards in the state of Louisiana, all across the board.
Well, first thing I'm gonna do is work with the people. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the same thing I did 30 years ago. I mean, we got to have a Congress that represents the people, and the best
Mm-hmm.
way to do that is by knowing what the people's needs are. I held a record number of town hall meetings when I was a member of Congress.
Right.
The best way to improve people's lives is by meeting with them and talking with them. I had a record number of actually congressional offices uh, in Louisiana. We plan to do the same thing. I mean, I got to get in, and I'm doing it now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
traveling around the district, meeting with people, finding out what their real basic needs are, and they're pretty much the same. There's some of the same issues
Mm-hmm.
we were faced with 30 years ago, or some of the same issues we're faced with today.
Mm-hmm.
And how we improve them, I mean, I can't tell you that I can wave some magic wand
Mm-hmm.
as one member of 435 members of Congress and everything will change overnight. I wish it was that
Right.
easy, but it's not. It's going to take all of us working together to improve the quality of life of many.
Do you think
And
it's just the political climate? Because the climate has always been more of a what they want to call an conservative agenda, and does the conservative agenda clash with everyday people's lives? And would it take a what you call a political and social shift to move Louisiana forward, or much like what you're saying, just working with other people? Because sometimes
yeah, you got to.
the other side of the aisle don't want to work with the people who really
Well,
need.
that's absolutely right. But at the end of the day,
Hmm.
that's where statesmanship, that's
Hmm.
where people who needs to rise to the occasion, people who are really public servants need to rise to the occasion and bring people together. Listen, I mean, it was divisive when I was in Congress
Hmm.
years ago. I
Right.
mean, it's more divisive now than it was then, but there was always division. But instead of talking about what we have in, what we differ, we got to talk about what we have in common, bring people together. Fix the problem. Let's not just talk about it. I mean, when Democrats are in charge, then Republicans, they obstructionists, and then when Republicans are in charge, Democrats, then feel that they have no say into the agenda, and so they feel the same as they felt. And so at the end of the day, I think what's real important, what's real important to the country is that we all get together. We know that the price of groceries is out of control, you know, and I'm glad to hear that the Biden administration is bringing, you know, people who are selling groceries to the table and say, look, all this price gouging, it got to stop. You know, we know that the cost of medicine is absolutely out of control. I'm glad that the members of Congress, through the Biden administration, they actually, you know, reduce the cost of insulin. You know, that's something people need to survive. You know, and it's going to take those types of measures to improve the status of people in this country. Now, I'm happy. I'm happy that Kamala Harris is a real viable candidate, and I think Kamala is going to do great. Kamala is going to, and she has already inspired the conscience of this nation. And I hope she continues to inspire the conscience of this nation. And I hope I'm a part of her majority in the Congress to push her agenda. For example, when President Biden was elected, one of the things he wanted to do was pass infrastructure, you know? And, you know, it's unfortunate that many people who voted against the infrastructure bill, you know, many members of Congress, you know, now they benefit from it, because you can't talk about economic development and not talk about improving our roads and our bridges, which also spurs economic development. So you know, I'm familiar with folk who do a lot of talking and never want to come together and have bipartisan solutions to the problem. But I would hope that some of that change in the future.
Yes, and you're listening to Senator Cleo Fields, State Senator Cleo Fields. He's making a run for that newly created 6th congressional district that spans the middle part of Louisiana. You know, we're going to definitely give some information out to the people who it will be affected. And right now, we're broadcasting on 88.3 KIEE and also on AOC Community Media. That's Cox 15, the public access channel in the 5 parish area of Lafayette. And I hope when the newly elected congressman gets up there, he'll support public access television in Louisiana. Sister Khadijah?
Oh, yes. Good morning.
Hey, Khadijah, how are you?
All right. I don't know if you kind of remember me, but about 25 years ago,
troublemaker,
activist for the prison reform, activist for prison reform. But about 25, 30 years ago, I would call your radio station faithfully and ask questions when it came down to some of the House bills and House Bill 1709 and what was going on with our penal reform movement. And you was always gracious enough to let me say my comment, and then y'all would comment afterwards. As a matter of fact, I have a nice picture of all of us sitting at the radio office, you, Senator Cravens, and Sister Kilamawusi Ali, Sister Jamila, Nutsi, myself, and it was another sister. So I'm wanting to find out if indeed, since y'all were able to really show the, I don't want to use the word corruption, but show the unfairness of the district, how they took and they didn't even want to give us another district. What was it that continuously made you pursue what you know was the right thing to do against your colleagues, some of your colleagues?
Well, I mean, you know, when I was elected to Congress, when the good people of Lafayette elected me several years ago, I mean, 30 years ago, and when I walked into the Congress, one of the things I wanted to know, because they had challenged the district, saying there was a racial gerrymander, And I was like, why is it so much resistance to a second majority black district in Louisiana? And I went to the Library of Congress, and I learned that the first black person ever elected to the U.S. Congress was actually from Louisiana. And I mean, and nobody told me that. I mean, that was not a public record. And I went to the floor of the Congress and I started talking to members of the Congressional Black Caucus. I said, "Do y'all know?" And everybody said, "Oh, Mississippi." Oh, no, it was Louisiana. You know, John Willis Menard in 1868 was the first African American ever elected to the U.S. Congress, and he went to Congress to take his seat. He had won by over 60% of the vote, 64 to be exact, 64% of the vote. And then there was a gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Garfield, who later became the 20th president of the United States of America. He stood in the well of the Congress and said, "Mr. Speaker, I object to seating the gentleman from Louisiana because it is too early for a Negro to be seated in the United States House of Representatives. Let's save this $5,000." And they sent John Willis Menard back to Louisiana, and he never took his seat. Now, that's one reason why I fight. Here's the other reason. Then Louisiana, during Reconstruction, elected Charles Nash. He was the second person elected from Louisiana, but the first ever seated. But since Reconstruction, Louisiana has elected only 4 blacks to the United States Congress, despite its population being, over 30%. And all four of them, everybody knows, William Jefferson, yours truly, Cedric Richmond, and Troy Carter. That's it. That is the history of Louisiana blacks in the U.S. Congress. That is sad. That is absolutely, if we elect more non-black members to Congress in 1 year than we have elected black members of Congress in a lifetime.
Ain't that
so? That's why it's so important, and that's why I want people to actually, get involved. I mean, go out and register people who are not registered to vote, and then get out and vote. I think there's a good move in this country right now.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And could you name the? I mean, are you able to name the blacks that has been senator? What about Senator Jones? Wasn't
he was a state senator?
Okay.
State representative.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He was in. Jones served in the state house and the state senate.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about the. Khadijah, about the National Congress, about the U.S. Congress, because that's the why I fought so hard.
Yes, sir.
Because I do believe that there needs to be diversity. I think you get better outcomes when everybody's included in the decision-making process.
Senator Fields, there was I think the Black Caucus had a get-together right before the DNC in Chicago. And one of the things that were put on the table, and our second guest, Miss Maria Holman of Step Up Louisiana, they talked about reparations. Would that be something, if elected, would you consider bringing to the table or trying to help advance? What's your feeling on that? And I had to ask you that one.
No, that's okay, and it's a fair question. I mean, I've been faced with this question when I was in Congress years ago. I mean, at the end of the day, I would love to have it, but if we don't have it, let's educate our children. Let's put money in education, because there's a reason why my grandmother, who barely finished the 3rd grade, insisted that I wake up every morning and get an education. There's a reason why slaves had to be in the middle of the night hiding to read. There is a lot of value in education. And that's why a lot of people taking money out of the public school and moving it towards the private school. And look, I mean, there's so many reasons that we are where we are today, and a lot of them have to do with the way things have been over centuries in this country.
Yes.
And we got to change it.
Senator Fields, you have a caller? You have a question or a comment?
Yes, good morning, Sister Khadijah. Good morning, Brother James. Good morning to Sen.Cleo Fields.
Oh, how you doing?
You know, the thing of it is, I've always been following you. You've been real good for us as a representative for the state of Louisiana. But the question I have this morning, how do you feel about Project 2025 and what it's going to do to affect us as citizens of Louisiana or the United States? Thank you. Now take your hands off there.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you so much. Well, Project 2025 is a disaster for our country. I mean, it ends the Department of Education. It's very radical. I mean, and the truth of the matter, I mean, I think the former president that now, has, I think it was basically his platform. And now he's trying to distance himself from it. That's just so radical. I mean, all the things that matter to us, it takes away. The whole purpose of government is to support the general welfare of its citizens. What would government look like if we don't educate our children? But Project 25 was doing that from an environmental perspective, to end environmental justice, to let companies do what they so desire, and pollute our environment. I'm totally against Project 2025, and I think every person should be against it. And it's a very right-wing agenda, and it's one that we cannot afford.
Well, you do know that it was a person from here, from Lafayette, that put that together.
Yeah, Mr. Kevin Roberts.
Yeah.
Graduate of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
Yeah, that doesn't make it any better. It is a terrible proposal, and we should fight it at every turn.
And Senator Fields, another question that a lot of people who I talk to in my circle, the issue of police reform. I know there were several issues in the state of Louisiana, the Ronald Green case, and I hope I can say this. I saw you at the rally because I was videotaping, and the whole thing is we should have had more of our state representatives supporting the Green family, because what happened to them was very, very egregious. And what's your feeling on that, and how can we move forward and help give the family of Ronald Green justice?
Well, I've been talking to Ms. Mona and her daughters. Look, that I can't imagine any parent having to go through what she has gone through and continues to go through. Before I even saw the video, before it was public, I said to the Legislative Black Caucus, listen, there's something wrong about this, and we need to do something about it. And we started a task force, and I chaired it, and we came up with, all kinds of new rules and regulations as relates to body cams, as relates to no-knock warrant, but precisely about Ronald Green. He was at the hands of the Louisiana State Police that night. And they were very unprofessional, and they handled the entire situation wrong. And it was not just the Louisiana State Police; it was all law enforcement who was present. And they have many have been accused, and many have been indicted, and many have been have stood for trial. I can't do anything about what happens in the judicial system, but I do think that we as a state have an obligation to that family and to put closure to it as soon as humanly possible. That mother goes through this every single day of her life, and to the extent that the state can stand up and say, look, we were wrong. and we apologize. And we want to at least resolve this case from our perspective. It will never be resolved in your heart, nor will it be resolved in ours. But we want to at least bring some closure to it for you. And I've been urging the state to do just that.
Okay, we have a caller. Caller, you have a brief question or a comment. You're on.
I have a suggestion. My comment is, upon hearing on the news about the mayors in different small towns destroying what they're calling dilapidated housing, it brought to my attention what this old house did, in that they bought a house such as that and they repaired it and sold it. The mayors could do that. And on the first day of the DNC's convention, there were mayors who were speaking about affordable housing. So the problem is people don't have housing, and those houses need repairs. There can be cities where the houses can be repaired and sold or rented.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna give your information to Dr. Williams and to Mr. Anders. Also,
let me take the broader part of her question,
Okay.
and I think the broader part of her question
Okay.
is affordable housing.
okay.
Okay.
The former Secretary of Housing, Marsha Fudge, who is a good friend of mine, when we brought her to Louisiana recently, we talked to her about the need, and she understood the need for affordable housing. I mean, housing is just totally out of the rim of a lot of people, and we got to have more affordable housing, not only in Louisiana but all across this country. And because when people, if you don't have a house, I mean, it's just hard to go to work. It's hard to raise a family. I mean, people need to have housing, and that's one of the big agendas that we have as a member of Congress, and that is to bring about more affordable housing. All right, I got a few more minutes.
Okay, well, a few more minutes. Okay, well, we won't be able to get to all the callers. Callers, you have a brief question or comment for Senator Fields. You're on.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Fields. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
And welcome back. What gets me is why every time that y'all running for something, y'all come back to the black community and spread this voting rhetoric, but yet still when it's time for y'all to fight and protest, we don't ever see y'all. And I'm not knocking you as a young man going into a white system, but you did vote for Joe Biden's 94-95 crime bill that put more black people in jail. Could you elaborate on it, how you feel today?
Okay.
Well, that's a very good question. First of all, the question of why we come during election season and not come back. I mean, look, I think that's a fair criticism. And I think people need to hold their elected officials to a standard. Don't just come during election time. Come all the time. And that's the way it should be. Now, in terms of the crime bill, I mean, I respect the gentleman who just called, but I want him to really do his research. I'm the member of Congress who voted against the crime bill. let's be very clear. Yeah. I stood up to the President of the United States of America, and I also stood up to the Attorney General at that time, and I said to him, the crime bill is wrong. Now, I know many members of the Congressional Black Caucus voted for it. I was the single one who stood up and said no, because it basically, death penalty, incarcerate more people, building more prisons, and I just couldn't in good conscience do it, and I didn't do it. Here's the other thing I stood up. Back in the day, there was something called Martin Mills. That was a plant down in Opelousas and in St. Martin.
Yeah, St. Martin.
And that was a textile. Yeah, we used to, and the NAFTA bill came up, and that, it would have had a real, and it did because they closed, had a real impact on the local economy and these folk who had jobs. and I couldn't vote for it. And I was one of the few members who stood up and said, I can't do this because it will have a devastating impact on my district. But look, I want to thank the gentleman for calling. He has a very good point about, people coming only during election time. I think people should come all the time. But I would like to correct him on the crime bill vote.
Definitely. And Senator Fields, lastly, what makes you stand out from your opponents? We got Senator Albert Lee Guillory, a perennial runner. He runs for everything. And we got a new young man from your area that's got some different ideas. He's much more of would appeal more to the younger generation. So what makes you stand out?
Well, what I think the thing that makes me stand out the most is when I go back, if the good people of Louisiana choose to send me back, you sending back somebody who picks up where he's left off. I mean, you sending somebody back that's not going to be at the back of the line. He's going to have 4 years of seniority. He's going to be, more at the front of the line. And that's a big thing. But listen, in fighting for this district, let me be just very clear and very honest about it. This district is for us. It's for all of us. It's not for Cleo. It is for anybody. This is a district that gives a person of color an opportunity to be elected to Congress. And I'm proud to say that because of my hard work, that other blacks can run for this district, because until we fought and made this a reality,
yes,
they would not be able to run for Congress.
That's right.
And now Congress is a black job. And so I'm running for this black job. I've held it before, and I want to hold it again. And I have nothing at all to say negative about any of my opponents, because, I fought. When I was fighting in that legislature, I was really fighting for them and fighting for you and fighting for every black person in this state just to have an opportunity to be elected to Congress. So thank y'all so much.
Senator Fields, we're not taking any more calls anymore, but then one quick question right quick is the fact that why do you think that Claudette Colvin was not recognized as being the first young black kid to not get off of the bus, and that they equated Rosa Parks with being the one that started it, when in actuality it was Claudette Colvin?
It's interesting that you say that, because I have something called a Louisiana Leadership Institute, the after school program that we have thousands of kids, and we had a little topic about that, and we take them to different places, and Rosa Parks was one of the topics, and I thought the kids just didn't know, and the kids were Mr. Fields, Rosa Parks was not the first to take her seat on the bus, and they knew it, and they knew it. I mean, they knew it. And we took them down so they could see where all of these great civil rights activities took place. But I think in that day, my analogy is, this is Cleo's analogy. I think people were fed up at the time that Rosa took her seat. And when Rosa took her seat, she just a big fire just took off all across the country, and we started the Montgomery bus boycott, and it had a big influence on what we did here with Reverend Dr. T.J. Jemison in Baton Rouge at the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. It just took off. They took that time, they took that moment, Reverend, and it just went all over the nation. The southern part of the nation in particular. And I think that's why Rosa Parks get the most credit for being the first to take her seat, although she was not, but that was the movement. She was the galvanizing force behind the whole bus boycott.
There you go. We got a bit of history from Senator Fields.
Okay, well then, thank you so much. Black History flashcards give out really good information, and they were the ones also that put out that information too when we were in Florida.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Fields. I think Sister Khadijah might be working on your staff soon with the
Khadijah,
Black
it's so
history.
good talking to you. And,
Same here.
Yes.
And it's good talking to you too, brothers. Yeah, y'all have a good day, and y'all keep up the good work. Get people to register to vote,
Yes.
and get them to actually go out and vote on Election Day. That is so, so important. And thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
There you go. You just heard from Senator Cleo Fields, candidate for the 6th Congressional District. And as a side note, Sister Khadijah, I did reach out to the young man, Mr. Anderson, Quentin Anderson, out of Baton Rouge, to be on the show. He was scheduled to come in today, but he had some prior engagement. And I know you will make your connection to Mr. Albert Lee Guillory to get him on in fairness. Fairness.
Oh, yes.
And the Open Line radio show will deal in fairness, but we will deal in truth.